Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Horsemanship Remark Show, Winter Solstice / Christmas edition. Who wants to guess whether or not Michael has his hat on this morning? We will find out here. Let's see. Well, nobody's going to be on the show with me, I guess, this morning because I don't see anybody here with us. Here we go. Michael is here. Get organized. Oh, look, it says bring them on video. Is that because the AI knows? Michael, here, hold on. Here we go. Jody, good morning. Joanne, good morning. Some other people I can't see. Woo! Look at that, you guys. Michael's superpower is that he is such a good sport. No one can beat him for that. So awesome.
I have my Christmassy shirt.
Yes, I do too, but look, this is a fashion problem.
The sequin.
They're not. No, we don't like the sequins. The tone, yours matches, right? But the hue.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, Joanne. But Michael.
See my pitchfork? How do I get into the pitchfork?
Oh, yeah. Cool. I just wrote her yesterday.
Nice.
And she's on deck this morning too. Where in the hell are all our people?
I'm not sideways for you apparently because you haven't commented. I'm sideways again.
No, for us it's good. That's weird. All right, so happy winter solstice. How
today?
Yeah, yes, today.
Yeah.
So
sweet.
The first day of winter. The days are going to start getting longer. OMG. Yay. Phew. That's a good thing. Oh, what day are you getting to Ocala?
The 11th.
That's a Thursday.
Oh.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so that's what I was thinking. We just have to, so Christmas, and then the challenge launch, and then Ocala, and then by the time we get home, the days are getting longer for sure. So that's pretty exciting. I am just going to the Northwood page here to see. So what's on your mind, horsemanship-wise? I have a few things. Less dressage talk today, but.
All right, was that a request from people?
No.
Quit talking about dressage. Like, let's talk about other things.
I thought it was making you do the.
I've actually told several people you should go listen to the show from last week. Maybe not several. I've told a few people.
Well, that's cool. All right.
Because I was actually, so the Dutch harness horse thoroughbred that was unique and is less octopusy now.
What's his name? He has a great name.
Von Dutch.
Von Dutch. I knew it was Von something.
Yeah, so Nina was here this week. She was not feeling well, so I just rode him, talked through what I was doing rather than really giving her much for a lesson. But we talked about a lot of what we talked about last week, and she's done, it sounds like, a lot of things horsemanship or horse-wise over the years, but her focus has been dressage now, and so just kind of drawing parallels, talking about things. So I told her to go listen to the show from last week because I don't think she had caught it yet. But
well, I'd be very interested to hear what she thinks. Who else do we need to say good morning to? Susan. Lisa says never quit talking about dressage. Corey says good morning. Keep talking about dressage. I love it. Seriously, Corey, you win for the comment regarding that from last year. Susan says good morning. Chelsea's here. Good morning, Chelsea. Have any questions or anything interesting about videos? Like, what did you get in there and watch? And you do a little bit of a better welcome message.
Chelsea and I rode this morning, which was very early for me. And she's on the road right now, she's been here for the last little while, which has been great.
Cool.
Now to Jersey for Christmas, but she'll be back. So we were actually working on some stuff this morning. What videos should she watch? Because I lately, one of the videos I've told people to try to catch was I don't know if you call it assessing groundwork, but the groundwork with Katniss in Dayton. I told her to watch that one. Just the little tuck from the ground, like, you know, keep marching forward, but don't trot short and choppy. Just
what we need to make a list of is sort of the inside data that maybe we wouldn't, you know, so at least people can understand what we're talking about. For instance, in Gary's Corner, the Noah's Arks, yeah, get forward around United, those kinds of things. It was really fun to ride her yesterday. The 4-quarter yield is feeling much more full. I was thinking a lot about that. And I don't know, just for me, one of the videos that's on deck, you guys, for the next little while is the very first ride that I had with her that Nicole filmed. It doesn't have audio, so I guess I'll do a voiceover or something, but it'll be super interesting. And then I did start trot poles with her yesterday. And I'm going to kind of keep those in there just to continue to develop her gymnastically. So, yeah, she's funny. She's funny because she is the worst one when sorting. You and I have talked about this. When sorting horses in, it's her one thing that she's worse than anybody else about. Otherwise, she's such a star compared to.
What do you mean sorting horses in, like coming in for their stalls and everything? Yeah, she's never done that. She's never been for anything. So
been a turd.
Like chasing everybody else around, kind of thing.
No.
Like not letting everybody come in proper order, or what?
No, so I just opened the gate, you know, for the 7 or whatever that are out there, and they're all meshed really nicely at this point. But you know, the horses have to kind of come towards me and go away from me as I'm you know, moving them around doors and around each other and whatever. And she'll run by me, you know. And so the other night, a couple nights ago, it was super foggy. Oh, and I did a thing the other night where I put her loose in the arena, and of course she rolled, and then she came over for snuggles. But was she gonna stay hooked on? Oh no. You know? And so we kind of did, but she knows that there's an answer to the puzzle. She totally understands about turning and facing and getting loose, you know, but it's a funny thing where she does kind of think she's in charge in that deal. And of course, I want her to stay bright and interested like she is. Mm-hmm. But I also need her to be like, girl, when I say come here, you gotta come forward, you know, and then yield the hindquarters and then go in your stall. So the other night before last, it was foggy and she was the last one to get sorted. I love sorting horses, by the way. It's like folding laundry. It's so satisfying by the time you get to the end.
So what's your routine? They come down. I've been to your place. I have the visual. They come down from the hill. Do you leave them all out in like just in front of the barn or behind the barn? What do you call the front?
So at the round pen, there's a gate, and then basically the courtyard, which we've now put a couple other buildings around. So I just open that big 12-foot gate, and they all come in. A lot of times I'll leave the barn door shut until I sort those 3, just because it's a lot of horses in this small space there. But they've all kind of figured out, don't go in there ahead of the wrong horses, you know. But
so what's the sorting? Just saying, okay, now is your turn to come in.
Well, here's your stall is now open because I can't have all the stalls open, right? So all the stalls are closed. So like they get pretty good at just going to their stall and waiting, and then they go in, right? So Katniss was the last freaking one. You know, everybody else is eating. It's like, what is your thought here, my dear? Because I know you want to go eat. So what's the problem? So she was at the very end of the barn, you know, by the house, Michael, which is where her stall is. So I go down there to open the stall door, and she goes shooting by me out. And I'm like, oh, okay, good. Go faster. And then she goes out into the fog and you can't even see. And it's like, well, so would you like me to lock you out here? Or what's your plan here? You know, so I'm shaking the flag, and of course she knows. She turns around, and I have to listen for her hoof beats because I cannot see her. So it's like clatter, clatter, clatter away, and then clip, clop, clip, clop. So I'm scooting back. It's so cool because here's this beautiful, you know, sorrel mare go out of the fog. And then, so then she hooks on, but then she goes shooting by me into her stall. I'm like, well, that's not how we do it either. So to draw her back down the aisleway, at which point she's drawing away from her stall. And then what I did is then I yielded the hindquarters and sent her forwards and down to her stall, at which point then I opened the door and she came around. But before I opened the door, she turns and faces me and takes a couple steps towards me. And I'm like, oh. And she goes licking, like in a way I've never seen her do it before. And I think that's interesting. Davina too, remember? Like they all have maybe a routine that they get into, and then every once in a while it looks totally different than their normal baseline of licking. Her eyes are like this, you know, and she's just going nuts with her tongue. And I'm just like, I open her stall door around, you know. So we'll see. It was fun. Super fun.
It's interesting the skills they have or develop. Like she's never had the opportunity, or like that's never been something she's done. She comes out of the pen, she's on the lead rope, right? She's never moved. I'm like into and out of the pasture, but even then, it's like open the gate and they all go running and bucking and farting, and then you drive them all in, and they all come running back in, and you know, stop the tank, get some water. But you know, like all my training horses are in the back, whether they come in to get grain or not. They're sorted every day like that. The ones that come in to get grain, or if they all come in to get grain, the gate's open, and they're like, whoa, hold on, don't be charging here, and like measure yourself, come in behind me. You know, you can mill about in the aisle, and at first they're all just kind of dancing around each other and stopping to say hi to another horse. And then, you know, fairly shortly they find their routine and they calmly go to their stall and, you know, the door. But yeah, they all start like just not knowing what the hell the program is. And had we put Katniss in the back to get grain here, it would have been the same thing for her because it's not something she'd ever done. So it's kind of interesting.
It's so cute.
Her doing all of that.
It's so cute. And she doesn't kick out, you know, or do, she's not super naughty, but it's just funny in the group of horses, like for her to just be so silly about it. And I'm just like, aren't you embarrassed? You know? And he's like, ah! Remy, little Arab, it is so interesting to see him in the herd, because basically what I'm doing is I'm keeping Zorro and Noah separate. So they get turned out every other day, because the two of them, I was not able to get them integrated, the two of them, before it got so muddy. And so that is an every other day kind of thing. But Remy is one of the ones that goes out with everybody, because the other five do, right? And he is so cool to watch because he's just so smart about it. He stays out of trouble. It's not like he gets pounded on, because he doesn't do anything that doesn't fit. If there's 7 piles of hay on the hill, he doesn't go to try to find one right away. He just waits. What does it take? 30 seconds for everybody to sort themselves out, you know? So he just waits, and everybody's calm, and then right into a pile. Nobody messes with him. And then when it's time to come in, he kind of lets everybody squeeze through the gate. And then he's one of the first ones to his stall, because he just waits for the clatter and then twist. And you know, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm pretty, yeah. So it's noticeable, that difference. Anyway, I'm really excited. I'm gonna ride Katniss again today, and yeah, it'll be interesting. So you guys, back to the videos? I don't know. I just don't know. Uh, Emily, she says she learns a lot from Dressage Talk. Good morning. Katie, good morning. Mike, good morning. Make the list, Emma. Val, I'm expecting you to make the list. Debbie, good morning. Terry, good morning. So, yes, shout out, you guys, what you think are the most important ones. I would definitely say the Gary's Corner ones. Those are really important. And so the leading up ones, the leading up tiny challenge and the Gary's Corner in terms of groundwork. And then anything to do with Noah's Arks, watch those for sure. Yes. Mm-hmm. Nina, nice outfit, Michael. Elf on a shelf. Ha ha. Nina's the octopus owner?
Yes.
Von
Dutch.
Von Dutch. It's the coolest name, Nina. I love it.
Kate, which Katie are we? Is here today?
Katie M.
Katie M. Oh, yeah. Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning.
You Katie's.
Yeah. So, what is on your mind? By the way, I'm getting excited for Florida. Super duper excited. Yay. And I'm so glad you're coming. This will be great.
What are you excited about? Why?
Oh, man. Because I haven't been to Ocala in like 15 years. It is one of my favorite places on earth. It'll be great to see Nathan. Of course, it'll be super fun to have a Buck Brandwin clinic in the middle of winter. Kip's coming. It's just going to be great. And I'm not bringing a horse or anything like that, so I'll help.
We're going to party. We're going to party late in the night.
And you're cooking every night, right?
I don't know how we're eating.
We have a kitchen. That's why we have an Airbnb.
Okay.
Those of you guys that stay with Michael at other places, do you make him cook?
No.
Anyway, it's going to be great.
We had a holiday party at the barn the other day. And I asked for an exemption for contributing because I have the kids. And Emily was in finals and whatever. And they're like, come on. Just go get a bag salad, throw it in a bowl, and call it good. I'm like, okay. So Stephanie's at the grocery store and she's like, you want me to pick up a bag salad? Sure, that's great. So then the day of the party, I was riding horses beforehand or whatever. I don't know what I was doing, but I was on a horse. And so then, I was on a horse and we were kind of doing some games, horseback and whatever. I was riding Von Dutch. And then I was like, okay, let's go in and eat and whatever. But I'm still riding Von Dutch because he was a little bit like, just overwhelmed by all the Christmas shenanigans and the games and all of that. Lots more horses and more energy than he's used to in there. So anyway, so I'm riding around afterward, going in to eat. I see a salad there. I'm like, oh, okay. Somehow someone got the salad and put it together, and like that was nice of someone. And then I realized later that someone else brought the salad, and the bag salad that Stephanie got at the grocery store for me was still in the fridge at home. So I didn't contribute, and I still have to eat that salad before it goes bad. That's my embarrassing story. And Stephanie said, well, you didn't have to, like, you could have just given yourself credit. But here now I'm not giving myself credit yet again because I think it's funny.
I think it's funny too.
I'll bring a bag salad.
Well, yeah.
Provide salads.
That's all right. Next year you can make intricate cinnamon rolls. I have all these thoughts of doing holiday food. Like for instance, my family, my mom's whole side is Finnish, so we make niswa. You probably have some of that up there. But I need to do it with gluten-free flour. But it's one of those things where you have to roll it out on a big table. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like the day after tomorrow, So who knows what I'll get to. Anyway, nobody cares, Michael. Everyone loves it.
Food is not my forte. I mean, I like eating it and all, but.
Yeah. Well, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. We can have Clem cook for us. Clem. Oh my gosh. I don't know. Someone's going to need to. Okay. So what else? Horsemanship. Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say the other video that I really would want people to watch, and if you don't, I'm not really impressed. Go to the feather section and watch the ABC, because that is definitely something we want to be able to talk about. The other thing I need to do is the like a one rein stop and talk more and more about that. I should just do that every month. with like, let's talk about it again because there's so much value in it. So, mm-hmm.
We could talk too about one rein stop versus, or as well as, in contrast with how they fit together, one rein stop and hindquarter yield to forward and around.
In contrast to,
Not
or
in contrast, but like if the horse is kind of one rein stop and the life is coming down and they're assuming we're always stopping, or they're planting a front foot, say it's pretty early on in the game, you're going to do more forwards and around out of it. If they're not getting the front foot dialed in and they're kind of tending to, when asking for a hindquarter yield, kind of want to drift forward, getting that front foot dialed in, off breakover, where you might for a bit do, a little bit more one rein stop, break over it to finish it, saying we're talking slowing the front of the horse down such that we can get stopped, or that we have control of the front end and we're not just moving the hindquarters and the front end's drifting out. I don't know.
Well, so it is different kinds.
Value in both of them. They are similar, and yet, having their distinct purposes.
Yeah, for sure. And I would say on the ground, of course, it's a different deal because you are definitely yielding the hindquarters and walking off forward and united in a way that we don't really do on the, when we ride in the same way. Otherwise, you're going to blur your one rein stop with the forward and around, so it's just a tiny bit different. For instance, you might stand from a standstill and do one of the four methods of yielding the hindquarters and then walk off, which would be the equivalent, the most equivalent. Or, like we said, do a shoulder in feeling to then forward and around. But I don't think I do blur the one rein stop, but between the hindquarter yield and forward and around exactly. Because if you, for instance, you think about it, like when we're in a buck clinic where we get on a circle and then yield the hindquarters 360 degrees and then walk off, it's just a bit different, right? Or if you're going to do a hindquarter yield to a forequarter yield and then walk off, I would want to make sure that your one rein stop is balanced and clear and let down and understood. That's really important to me.
Well, and a hindquarter yield that you roll out of needs to be balanced and clear and understood too. And whether you're doing one or the other, are they doing it in such a way that they are able to conclude the movement with a breakover, or taking that movement and sending themselves forward?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And in, let's say, a hindquarter yield that rolls on forward, the moment of balance in which the horse could get stopped
Is the moment where you would send them forward.
Well, it's like the moment before the moment you would send them forward, right? Because you would never want them to think, oh, I should be rolling forward when they're in that balance. You're like hindquarter yield, and then you're like, okay, I can walk off and go forward. You wouldn't want to send them forward before you leave at least a tiny moment of understanding that balance is important. So Lisa Overhill. Let's see.
Oh.
She says more of that. 1 rein stop, hindquarters, forequarters. Marcy, oh my gosh, good morning. Susan, the 6 keys videos, true, good point. You guys can share that. Do you understand that you can share that? You can share that link with anybody. They're just going to need to sign in with their email so that they can get the email every week. But that's shareable with anyone that's not a Horsemanship Insider. Yeah, the thing about hindquarters, so like a 1 rein stop, a high quality 1 rein stop, and we can talk about your thoughts on how to get that if they're leaning on the inside front foot, or if they get frozen, or what else would happen, or they just do it really fast and then are like waiting for the next thing. The difference between, you want to have that first. It's so huge where they can kind of alight in that, in that moment of balance, where they're turned loose on each side and longitudinally, right? So they've contracted on one side and they've expanded on the other side. And then the thing about the forequarter yield, it's basically from that moment where you stop, where you get stopped, really where you get stopped, one way or the other, either to stand still, or then to roll the forequarters over the hind, which is, so if you get your horse exactly in the middle, then you can tilt them backwards and around, or you can just go forward and around, which is what but it's that balance and peace in that moment is tricky sometimes, because you might want to use that, but that's, I think, where you grow their ability to stay back, and it's not just like for a second, which is why high quality 1 rein stop each direction until the horse is truly over themselves. Oh, Katniss yesterday, left lead was her challenging deal. Oh, don't let me forget to talk about the Canada part with Novella. She's so cute because at a certain point, her right hind leg is the part she has to be like, oh, I got to get that forward and, underneath again. And she knew it a couple times. Like, she was like, oh, and then pushed herself, did it this way, pushed herself into the slack. I was like, yay, good job. She's feeling like kind of proud of that for a second. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Olympia, good morning. Sierra, hi. So, do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, I'd be interested to hear more of your thoughts. What I end up, and we could talk the ground or riding, what I end up with, particularly, let's say with Brody, lesson horse, lots of variance in quality, lots of ineffective, feel in drawing him around, allowing a brace, trying to get a yield off the leg and just not being effective. All of that just, part of his week every week. And he, with someone who doesn't have the experience to know, I feel you assuming a stop here or bracing a bit before the hindquarters go, he will kind of read in someone, and particularly if they don't have a lot of life in their body. Okay, here comes a 1 rein stop. Hold a little bit of brace, just stop the front end, move the hindquarters, or maybe not hold the brace, like just bend. And now I've moved the hindquarters, but it just goes splat and all the life comes out. And it's not a balance in keeping life in the body to find this really square spot. It's okay, we're done. Sometimes it'll be to where, like, I stop my feet, then I move my hindquarters even. And if you don't know what you're looking for at all, like, okay, I can't even tell whether the hindquarters are moving someone who's really just trying to feel for a lot of different things. You don't have the ability to catch that and tweak on that and whatever. So in those cases, it's been a lot of move the hindquarters, but roll forward, because we have the assumption that, from the horse, everything means, here's my chance to stop. Here's my chance to stop. So it's hindquarters, but be ready to go. Hindquarters and ready to go. Hindquarters and ready to go. So now when we do the hindquarters, we have this kind of like, okay, we're thinking about coming into balance because we might be ready to go versus.
And of course, that's the value of that's the value of backing to some degree, right? Or not ever finishing the one rein stop to where it's too quick to relax, like to get into first position and then hold it for until we say, okay, at ease. You're like slouching, but the misunderstanding that it's a movement to slouching versus it's a movement to first position.
Mm-hmm.
And then
first position meaning ballet poise,
correct.
not positions of the pelvis.
That's right. That's a good point.
Offering a little interpretation there, because I knew exactly what you were talking about, but
yeah. So I think that is an intellectual understanding, but I don't know. To be fair to Brody, it's like, poor buddy.
Yeah.
Not poor buddy. It's just you do have to make allowances for him, that there's a certain amount of guessing that he has to do.
Yeah.
Like, do I need to protect myself? Like, what should I do here? It's Michael's school horse. So, and he's a doll. He's awesome. He really almost could not wish for a.
Yeah. I can put a complete beginner or someone who's even worried and scared on him, but also can put someone who's advancing, and he will rise to the occasion, provided, like one gal yesterday, I was like, you have to get here and you have to like psych yourself up. Like, if you didn't get psyched up in the car on the way here, like, tell me to turn it on. Like, you have to rally and say, we're going to do this. Because if you don't, and she's a teenager, so it's kind of like,
Is she a Swiftie? Because then it's easy. I just learned what that was.
You just learned what a Swiftie?
Yeah.
I don't know if she is. Yeah, but Swiftie has lots of angst.
Oh, is it? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. There's so many people that are our age that are Swifties. They don't have that much angst. Or at least not obvious.
She does. That's what
she's a teenager.
Not everything, but anyway, so I'm just like, you need to put your, like, let's go, let's do this energy on for Brody to even feel like we're going to do anything, and she's got enough experience now she can, but it's not her. I mean, she's probably the kid that walks down the halls in high school and is kind of like, don't pay attention to me. I'm just gonna kind of blend in here and observe and, not real boisterous or, any of that. So it's like, you need to find that for Brody to find this interesting and for you to feel like a leader to him. And she can at times, but other days it's like, I'm just, come on. And it's not like Brody's doing anything wrong. You're just giving him the wrong message. You're saying, do all this with your arms or moving your body, but there's no presence involved in it. Or you're saying, let's go, but it's just static and stale within you. That's my new word, stale.
That's a good one.
Yeah. River used that one this week. I'm like, ooh, that's a good word.
Yeah, that's a very good one. Well, what a cool lesson for that teenager to have the experience of, when I'm kind of in this vibe, my horse is this way. When I'm in this, like, that's kind of a neat data set for her.
Mm-hmm.
How long has she been riding with you?
Probably close to 2 years now. Yeah.
So you know me, if she was having a blah ride, I'd be like, what are your thoughts, dearie?
Yeah.
You know, so
it started
Julie
out that she wouldn't talk to me though.
Oh.
So I mean, we've made a lot of progress because now we're sort of joking together, and I can get a smile out of her, and she'll make smart comments once in a while. So at first it was just like, let's loosen up, and yeah. So she's come a long way. It's been a process, but
that's so cool. Julie says, I got to play with exactly this on Brody and was so informed by his variability in the hindquarter stop/slump versus hindquarter life balance go. She said it was a really good lesson. Yeah, totally, right? Like the horse's variability is a great word, but their natural ability to calibrate. It's a great, like, if we stop and think about it, for them to not only learn the things, but then learn like, okay, what is this person exactly gonna, because they only think we want it. They don't know that we suck at times. Michelle, oh my gosh, hi. Julie said, girls really aren't taught to have presence in life in general. Do you think that's still the case, Julie? I wonder. Perhaps. Emily said, that's a good life lesson. And Olympia said, Swifty, she laughed. I'm serious. I did not know. I heard that term and I thought maybe it was some cleaning service that I hadn't heard about yet. That was like going to be this phenom. I'm not kidding. And then I was like, because we're talking about writing personal notes, and it was like, blah, blah, blah. Are you a Swifty? And then the whole crowd roars. And then it's like, well, she writes notes. And then by the time they got to she gives her crew a $100,000 bonus I was like, oh, I bet that's Taylor. And I'm a Swiftie too. I just didn't know it. So Olympia says AC/DC. Yeah, Olympia, the only thing that I noticed many years ago is there's some music that jacks me up, but then it's too much. It's too hard for me to get in but whatever works, you'll be able to tell from your horse. But a super introvert, which is what your gal kind of sounds like a little bit, coming out of their shell. That's so cool. So what else are you thinking about?
Well, I think this is a good topic. I don't know what more we'd get into there. Let me think of.
Okay.
So another element of that is coming off the rein, coming off the leg. 4 methods of moving the hindquarters, not just one, and then taking that into the saddle. I've been, since we talked about Della and kind of cornering her and making sure that lead rope really did connect all the way through the hind leg. I've been thinking a lot about that saddle in myself and helping others, and just feeling in that snap moment, is this going through to your hindquarters, or is it just empty, and then I'm going to be here with my leg trying to catch you up? And being ready right there to draw a little bit, be like, no, you weren't be ready off this rein. And then on the flip side, say you're riding, trying to set an arc, or offer a forward and around to the right, and your right leg goes back, and you just kind of don't get much. I was riding DeGalmo this morning.
Yay.
We're riding with Chelsea. Rooster is lame right now, so DeGalmo got pulled out.
You trying to keep the thoroughbred barefoot? Duh.
Not barefoot. still has shoes on. He has an abscess.
'Tis the season.
Turned it into cellulitis. Ugh. Yeah. Anyway, Degamo. I don't know. For some reason, it was just like, wow. Something that has probably been a little off for some time. And I was just riding around, legs only, talking to Chelsea. And I scissored my legs to the right. And it was just like 100% congruent, effortless, hind stepped under. We just propelled ourselves that way. And I scissored my legs to the left, and we certainly bent left, and we certainly went left, but it was a little bit more of the front kind of stepping in, not falling in so much, not reaching way in, but more front end than hind. Okay. I did a little bit more with my inside leg back. I said, okay.
So this is your left leg back.
Yes. Left leg back.
Mm-hmm.
And left leg back, and the hindquarters was right there, like boom, immediately. But then it was more of a drift where the hindquarters was now doing more. And so I just kind of felt around on that, touched it up. When the front end was doing too much, I said a little bit more hindquarters, like don't just bend that way and kind of start going that way, but the front end walking in, step the hindquarters under and still go forward and around. But then when the hindquarters went under, I had just both legs come in and say, but stay forward, because this isn't now drift the hindquarters, and it didn't take anything, but it was just a I don't know if it was just a stiffness. I don't know why. I was like, hadn't noticed this before, but I did it, numerous times before fixing on it, going, okay, is this a repeatable thing? And then I kind of went and did something else, came back, and it was something he was doing inconsistently to the left. So, been there for a while, but
that's a great lesson.
Took nothing to shape it up, but I had to be aware of it and say, you're not quite stepping under and going forward like you are effortlessly to the right.
That's an excellent point. And I love the comment that you did it a few times before you started to fix on it, because it certainly could have just been a time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. Mm-hmm. I was riding your Katniss yesterday, thinking, because like if you think of the us as the corners of the rectangle, right? Why didn't you turn your lights on?
I thought that was a little hokey.
No, it's awesome. Are you kidding me? So, no,
You can't
so
see it.
Yeah, you can. I need one like that. Oh my God, that's awesome. But you gotta put the thing down.
I thought it looked cute when it was way up.
Well, yeah, but yeah, there we go. So the thing I was thinking about, just in terms of, for those of you guys that don't know, Michael's like 6'2" or something. I'm 5'2".
Just under 6.
And so, the rectangle that we make is such the rectangle, that's just a standing up one, is so different lengthwise, the two of us, right? And so I was thinking about how the horse perceives that and wondering, in the end, how much it actually matters by the time they're packaged this way, right? But in order to get to that, like there are times when I think, oh man, I wish my legs were just farther down the horse. And so I'm having to help with my hands probably differently than you do. But then at a certain point, you just don't even notice it because it just doesn't matter. But I was thinking about it from the horse's perspective, like just like a little bit like Brody calibrating them, just going, okay, and then that's where we have to be aware, not necessarily having to do it exactly the same way. I mean, sort of exactly the same, but also sort of not.
Yeah, I mean, like I said a bit ago, 4 methods of moving the hindquarters. We have 4. Use all 4. And talking, whatever, 5. Talking in motion, can you really, like I think I told Chelsea the other day, like imagine not having use of your lower body, paraplegic. Like you're going to have the reins hooked to the legs or have a stick, right? Some people ride with a stick, but the way you ride, as I understand from your description and seeing the hind leg respond like it does to the rein primarily, I mean, you are really riding more or less reins only to a degree, right? You're not ever using your legs, but with emphasis on the rein. And I think that's an interesting topic too, because I will often encourage people to go, well, try not to use your presence so much. Try not to use your legs and see what you can get done. Say you're leading a front foot, say you're doing a hindquarter yield, say you're leading up, say you're moving the hindquarters from the ground. Any of those things, how much can you get done without having this going on, or using your flag, or using your leg? Can you get all that to happen? Or how much of it can you get to happen off just the rein, off of just the lead rope? How responsive are they? Now, drive them forward and around. Don't draw as much with the lead rope. Or can you ride legs only? Which is, we all hear that right off the bat. Loose rein, legs only. But can you really reach that front foot, let's say, doing more with the front end behind without the help of the rein, and still have flexion be correct? Like intentionally leave one of them out, or minimize your request. Lead with the legs, support with the rein. Other times lead with the rein, support with the leg. And when you're teaching something, you might use the aid that's more effective, if one is more effective than the other, to help them understand, and then using maybe the weaker to support it. Other times, though, when you're working on being more responsive, say off the leg, you're going to start with the leg, or like if you're trying to build more of a float, right? You're going to maybe set the flexion, put a float in there, come in with a leg, but then support with the rein again and say, nope, I do need you to hold this flexion even though there's a float there. So just the interplay between legs and reins, or flag and lead
and
present.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that too, because the thought that the goal, because it's an old horsemanship axiom, legs without hands, hands without legs, right? And what are we ultimately heading towards was also what I was thinking. And this relates to the dressage talk we had last week. But I'm not going to draw that parallel just right now. But the idea that really, in the end, we use our reins and our legs to get to this place where we can do so many things on a feel, right? And which means our whole body does need to be integrated, like we've talked about. And then like that has to be the like the goal, the feeling that we're heading towards. And then exactly as you're saying, like however you want to build that tower, you do. Yeah. But I want to be able to text and drive at the same time my horse, which means I would have to have my horse operating off my legs. Hypothetically, do a job. That is my job. Emailing.
I should post a picture. Mike made this roping dummy the other day, and
say it one more time.
Mike made a different roping dummy the other day, and I've been messing around with it because it's very sturdy. I mean, it's solidly built, but its hind legs are basically just straight down, a couple 2x4s screwed together with a little bit of space. So it's a little bit wider than a 4x4, but it's just straight legs off the hip, straight down. The front is the same, straight down, but there's a cross member at the bottom that keeps it from tipping side to side, but it's only on the front feet. Picture like a jump standard, right? It goes across. So it's very square and stable just off of the cross beam on the ground in the front. But I've been going around, and I did this with Von Dutch the other day when Nina was there, and he thought it was pretty insane. So you can tip it like on a diagonal. Well, it wouldn't be a diagonal because the hind legs are just one, but you can kind of rock it up on its side and get it to rock left, tip over, and then tip it over toward you, drag it around, get the rope, kind of flip the rope around its hind end and drag its butt end around with its head dragging in the dirt. And then you go over to the other side, and if you get your angle correct, and our sand's kind of deep so that it gets buried, and then you stand it back up, and then you can go around the front and draw on it a little bit, like buck, its hind legs will come off the ground. So you can just get this thing to do all kinds of weird stuff. And then even once it's on the ground, depending on where you flip your rope to grab different parts of it, because it is kind of angular, you can roll it over on its back and flop it towards you over its back and all kinds of. So this thing is like flopping and flipping around in the middle. And like I was thinking of your conversation with Temple Grandin, like every time that thing moves, when it flops over, when it rolls over on its back and tips towards you, like and it was a very clear example of that. They would get comfortable, they could walk up to it and it's fine, I could rope it, and they're standing there. But then once it started moving and kind of rocking toward them, depending on whatever distance, they were like, ooh, that thing's gonna come at me now. But it's the same animal, it's just moving toward me. But then you tip it over and they're like, what in the world is that? Not so much that they're gonna like check out, but they were like very leery of coming up to it then, because now it's sideways on its back, head sticking this way, and there's eyeballs, black circles drawn on it, so it kind of looks like some sort of a weird creature. But then because it's the back is also very narrow, I was walking over it, so you like walk right over its back with its legs on either side, and but to get in there and say hi to it and get comfortable enough to walk over it, it was like that was another whole chunk for them to accept that, be comfortable with that. So that's my new favorite toy, because it's light enough you can do it without dallying, but then Von Dutch, the first time I kind of started dragging it, like we were dragging it was kind of off over the hip, but then I kind of started changing my angle and going away from it a little bit, And I had it dallied at that point. And he kind of hurried off as it got behind him. So I popped my dallies, and the sound of the dallies popping, and I don't know, maybe the rope hit his hip or something too when the dallies popped. He was just like, oh, okay, that I'm not in for. And then we had to go back and kind of rebuild it all again. But where was I going with that? Oh, so yeah, it's light enough I could kind of do it all by just holding it and kind of leaning the other way. But now dallying with both of them, and actually I've been doing it also with the little Arab. It's not, for either of them, hasn't been challenging to bear the weight of it, because again, it's not that heavy, or feel the pull on the saddle horn. It's the popping the dallies, or anytime the rope quickly snaps, that's what gets them, because I'm generally popping dallies, or at least with a lot of tension on them, when they are kind of jumping away from it a little bit. It's like, okay, let's not have to chase you, pop the dallies. So anyway, that's my new favorite toy. It's like this roping dummy that you can really manipulate into a lot of different things and tip it up, and
shapes. That's a good idea.
It's kind of fun. So it's been good for those two. I have another, the German riding pony. I don't know if I've mentioned her. Yeah. So the other day she did for me because I talked to Katie after she did it. She spooked, and I know exactly what she spooked at. It was coming past the gate, and it was dark in the back there. And she was kind of looking at it, but she spooked. As she jumped away, it was like she came up in like a buck, but then I don't know how she did it, while she was still in the air, no feet were on the ground, she kind of went up into a rear. So she came down on just her hind legs, and I'm going to bend her. So it's like she's only on her hind legs, and I'm already trying to put her into hindquarter yield. We kind of had this little scramble sideways for a moment. I'm like, oh crap, let's not go down. But anyway, that's one of the things she had started doing that was of concern for Katie. It's like, what, she was really settled, why is she now getting spookier and doing this and whatever? So she is a little spooky looky. She doesn't follow the inside rein like I'd want her to. Like, she relies on the outside aids a lot more. So we've been working on that. And then just, hindquarter, forequarter, where she can bend enough, and she can bend plenty, but to isolate the hindquarters again, not just having that shoulder drifting. So anyway, that's some of what we're working on technical skills wise, but out of that, gaining more confidence. But today, I think, or next week, I'll probably start messing with the roping dummy with her, because I know that's gonna wig her out. Maybe not as much the roping dummy, but the commotion of the rope in and around her, the sound on the saddle horn while thinking about the roping dummy. I rode her out the other day, and she did fine, but she was just very looky at things, very ready to spook, and kind of on high alert. That's more on my roping dummy. I'm excited to
that sounds really cool.
Mess with it with her.
I need to get my rope down a bit more. I just have limited time, right, with the daylight, but yeah, it makes me think about all the cool things we get to do when there's a little bit more time, or if you have a lighted, heated arena. But you're handy. You're super handy, so it makes sense that there's...
So
was it Mike's idea? Like, did he do it intentionally?
No. Well, he has another one that he built that's a little bit more standard. The hind legs are out at an angle similar to the front end and whatever, but it's built like super solid, very heavy duty, meant to be knocked over and drug around. And you could probably do some of the similar stuff. Like, you could flip the rope over a leg and tip it over to its other side. But it'd be tough. I'd have to try it. I don't know that you could lay it down and then stand it back up. You certainly couldn't rock it very easily side to side. It's also way heavier, so if you did want to drag it, it's got some heft to it for a horse that's kind of just getting going with it. But
makes me think of, dragging a log and all the different kind of shapes
and
sounds you can.
That's the thing. Like, this is way more interesting than a log. Like, okay, you got a log behind you, you can stop and dally, or dally, stop, back up. You can do some of that, and you could try to take it real precisely, get it this distance from the cone, and then slow the log down and make your arc. And you can do all kinds of things, but I don't know, I guess this is just more fun because you can roll it around and flip it over and stand it back up. And so what was I going to say? Oh, so coil or my left hand. Sorry, I'm trying to get to that. Coils in my left hand, and reins, and then doing most of this on the right side, flipping the rope and occasionally flipping it over and going the other way. But the majority of it has the roping dummy off to my right, off my right hip. So I haven't done a lot of turning my coils around, putting everything in my right hand, and then working with my left hand. I've done a lot of switching sides, keeping everything in my right, the rope in my right hand, and dallying with my right hand underneath, but to switch it all and work coils in my right hand in the other hand, because the little Arab in particular, when we started going left, on our left side, he was sketched out again, and so I had to kind of spend more time with him on the left. So I'm like, okay, this is kind of low stakes. I can just throw a bunch of rope out there, and I think I can get him stopped before I'm out of rope and whatever. So I put it in the other hand, and it was like, wow, I'm not very coordinated doing it yet. Should do more of this. So,
cool.
Fun.
Sounds like you're making up fun things to do inside. And just getting
and it's interesting too. Like, you can see where, you watch videos of Ray starting a colt and how quickly he goes through things, and the horse is just like, holy hell, and just taking a, but he gets so much going. And when he's talking about first day they cost you something, the second day you break even, and the third day they're on the payroll and making you money, that sounds like, well, that's really right. But it's incredible if you just say, this is what we're doing, and they're just like, oh my gosh, but you've got enough of a handle on them to support them through it a little bit, rather than trying to do things and not have them get in any kind of trouble and do it, super slowly or systematically. Like, they can handle so much, and with both of these horses, it's like day 2 came out way more confident, didn't take near as long, and day 3 they're just like, okay, this is what we do. Whereas I could have said, oh, I need a more broke, or I need, whatever, I need to approach this slowly, and it wouldn't have really served them any. Like, it benefited them to go, whoa, what's going on? This is scaring me, and help them through it more than it would have been to be like, okay, I don't want to scare you with this. I'm going to go at it slowly and a little bit at a time. So, like, at that point where Von Dutch was like, can't handle it off my hip, I just laughed, and so then I explained to Nina, like, you could call that a setback, because it definitely went to the point where it scared him, but now we just go back and we work through that, and it's going to take a little longer because that did really sketch him out, but there's no harm in that, as long as you work through it. And sure enough, the next day it was like dallying and dragging it around, and so, and it just made me think of how possible it is for a horse to be handy enough to do a job, a few days in if you just say, we're going to go do this job.
That's where we say, oh, the limit is a human.
Yes.
However,
yes.
we all need to be realistic about what we can handle and not just be like, well, if I could handle more, then my horse would be better. It's like, well, except for if you cannot, then don't do it that way, because that is not going to work. Like, I was riding Katniss through the boogie corner, the scary corner. There is a hole that an animal made on the outside, like under a barrel. I need to go look in there and see what it is. But it's a tunnel. Something made a tunnel.
See what it is.
Yeah.
Don't you have little rat chasing dogs? Send one of them in. Don't you have a doxy?
No, not anymore.
I'd
be too scared.
They're supposed to ferret things out. That's what they're built for.
Yeah, but I wouldn't send it after a snake or something. I wonder what it is, but it is like about this big. Anyway,
okay, if it's this big, do you think it's a snake?
I hope not.
It's got to be something with fur on it if it's that big.
What would it be, though?
I don't know.
I honestly don't know what it would be, but they all see it. And I'm like, yeah, that does look sketchy. But I'm like, Katniss, I haven't seen anything come out of it, pretty sure. And I don't think it would be big enough to get us. But, badger, Emily, we don't have badgers here. We have raccoon. We have black bear, bobcats, cougars.
Fox?
I have never seen a fox here. It would be a fox. It would be so cute. Then I wouldn't have to. But anyway, the point is, I'm like, oh, Katniss, Michael would ride you right in here, just be like, are you gonna do anything?
Yeah.
It'd be cool. Like, just stay in the middle.
So, Von Dutch said
bait because it's more fun.
So Von Dutch kind of the same thing. One of the first weeks Nina was here, and when she's here, I kind of just introduce new things sometimes, or just like I spend more time because she's a ways away. It makes the trip to be here, so I spend more time with him and just start messing with stuff. Like last time she was here, I'm like, well, let's get him to stand on the pedestal, and we didn't quite get it that day, but we got him thinking about it, and then the next day we did, and now she showed up last week or this week, and then he just like plopped right up on the pedestal. But anyway, so I kind of try to show her like some of what we do and watch the early stages of him working through something. But anyway, like the first week she was here to watch, he was worried about the tarp some initially, but I helped him through that. And so then she was here and he picked up the tarp with his teeth and did the whole spook, but I can't let go of it thing. It didn't go very far, but it definitely chased him because he didn't let go. And, there again, you can be like, wow, that was such a setback and whatever. But you work him through it, and the next day he's fine. So the other day, that was, I believe, on the ground. But the other day I had the dog bed in the corner, and I put it up on a little ledge so I can have her go load up. And so he went into the corner, and he's been a little worried about that corner off and on because there's occasionally roping dummies there. Occasionally people are opening the door and shuffling around in the storage area over there. Sometimes the dog is there and jumps off when he's not expecting it, whatever. Lots happening in that corner. So this day there's no roping dummies. The dog's not in the bed. We go in there. He's interested in the bed, but still kind of like skeptical. And he's going up to it, getting more confident, putting his nose on it. I'm like, he is so going to grab this thing with his teeth and we're going to go flying. But I'm just like, all right, let's see what he does. Maybe we can have some fun here. But he didn't. I think I thought better of it as he was doing it. I'm like, well, let's just not have that happen. But there was a part of me that was like, this would be kind of fun.
I was so thinking that yesterday. I'm like, Michael would be tempting fate here purposefully. So Leslie, we have a few comments. Sorry, Val, I couldn't see it on the screen. So Val says a toad in the hole. I don't think it's a big hole, but we do have toads, but it would have to be the size of like a dessert plate. And maybe We have, what about a giant slug? Like maybe it morphed because I had to spray the arena this summer. I don't know. So, other comment Julie had, just going back really quick, she says it's a function of junior high school. Do you think the girls learn to be quiet and invisible just to survive, and probably boys too, but I only know the experience of being the girl so far. But this is a little bit the difference between Michael being like, bring it, let's tumble around. Also, you know you're not going to die. And Julie says, let's go do this job. Anything can be a job as long as we, the human, treat it like a job. Yeah, for sure. I do think exposure, though, is a little bit different, and it's definitely something I wish I had a little bit more bravery like Michael does. And not just bravery, but like the actual competence to be able to handle, something going down in the way that he can. But I do try to ride the arena as if I was at Perrydale Trails, because there's all these obstacles, and all this scary stuff, but you're in this wide open space and you don't ever try to jam your horse up against something. You just kind of go around it and do the thing until it's close to it. But some of
that's an interesting thing though too. Like, I'm pretty sure I mentioned it probably quite a while ago, but the balance between, okay, we're just kind of drifting past this and we get closer in as you get more confident just moving around it, and just not going at something directly. But it can be a little bit like the roping dummy. It's like, well, we're getting confident enough with this, like say going over it, like we're stepping over it. It was like we've gotten confident it's standing up. We're getting in there, laying down, and you're starting to put your nose out. But it's like, get in there and go over it. And they're like, I don't know about this. And took a little bit like, no, give it a try, right? And kind of putting a bit of pressure, saying, get up there. Don't keep shirking back from it. So getting comfortable moving around the arena and getting used to more and more things. But there's a point at which I find with training horses anyway, where it's like, we are going to test the whole arena, including the spots where you're a little more sketched out. We're going to get you up against the wall all the way around this arena and hit all of them directly. Some of the corners that might mean passing back and forth a bit. Some of them, depending on where we are, it's like, now we're going to go through here. Don't bulge your ribs into me. Stay over there. Some of the corners will stop and kind of approach as they're more interested and build their confidence. Sometimes it's like, no, get up in there. You got to try to, so there's value too in saying, this is the job we have to do. We have to get on this line, stay between my reins and legs, so we can use this whole arena, not just creep up on it by getting comfortable with the space.
So, stay in the rectangle.
Stay in the rectangle. Yeah. Which
I
don't know that I would, hit one area a little bit more directly, but do a lot of just floating around, going past it, easing into areas just through repetition and getting closer. And then if there was one that was really pushing on them, or they were shirking away from, I kind of hit that more directly. But it's, whenever I mentioned it last on the show, I really have gotten to where it's like, no, we're using the whole, at a certain point, we're going to go, it is time now that we're going to use the whole arena and make sure you can be in the rectangle and stay on the rail. And I don't want to make a fight out of that, and I don't want to do it too soon. And I tell that to people frequently, like, let's not just bog down on trying to get them into this corner, because oftentimes it's like, we need the rectangle to be better before you're going to be effective at saying stay in the rectangle.
That was what I was going to say too.
But at a certain point, like with a training horse, it's like, no, the rectangle is going through here, and we have the ability to find that rectangle. We're gonna go through here. So
yeah, for sure. That's the thing is I think it's easy to forget, or especially like when the arena maybe gets a little bit more spooky for whatever reason. A giant boogie hole that came out of nowhere. You know, it's easy to be like, to skip over the question, is my horse really in the rectangle? And if they are, and the same thing at Perrydale Trails, you know, you go around until they are in the rectangle. And then you might say, okay, well, you got to feel around. If they go over the mattress, are they going to melt down? You know, if they go over the pool noodle or through the pool noodles, are they going to melt down? But once you are calculating, no, they're in the rectangle, then you could say, come on, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's easy to skip over the question, are they? Because you could get on and just be riding, you know?
Yeah, that is a lot of like trail obstacle clinic or talking about trailer loading is like, well, if your horse isn't yielding light and willing away from this obstacle, don't come up to the obstacle and have to put all this pressure on when they're already sketched out about the obstacle or the trailer or whatever, and now you're putting all this pressure on to get forward because that's what you needed to do over there when there was nothing in the way. Like,
that's right.
So they weren't in the rectangle there. Now you're trying to use the rectangle to usher them through some space. You're just going to make them more scared.
And that's, again, the value of that united arc and being able to really test the arc with the flag on the ground. And they're like, okay, get on your arc, get in the rectangle, and then everything else means nothing. But it's easy to skip that when you're on, let's say, a horse like Katniss, for instance, where it's like, well, I haven't had to even think about that for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And she was great, really, overall. But there's other horses that are not,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And that's when I'm like, oh, I got to go back for my flag a lot of times, or riding them around with a flag. You know, the point being, get them in the rectangle first and then challenge yourself versus like, let's see if this works out, which you could do if you're mindful. Katie says, a confident kid can do this. They can just hang out with their horses for hours and do random stuff without fear, getting them used to stuff, as Buck says. Yeah. Or any great colt starter will do that. Exactly what you were saying a while ago, Michael. I mean, you think about Gary starting a colt and then immediately he's starting the other colts, which is amazing to think of what is possible. Mm-hmm. But I just want to say it again, because it's so easy to think, well, my horse can do this. Yeah, whatever. You still have to factor in what you can do so that it doesn't become too dangerous, too scary, not fun anymore. And yet, having this sense of wonder at what is possible. And then thinking, well, if we cross these places where the horse has been out of the rectangle or has lost confidence, or Michael, don't you think that there's a time when the human doesn't feel confident in the rectangle anymore? That's a big one. And you know where I think of that for myself? There's a couple areas. One of them is when the footing is bad. Then, and it doesn't have anything to do with what my horse is doing, but if I push it too far, like for instance, doing canters when I shouldn't be doing canters, or smaller arcs when I shouldn't be doing smaller arcs. This hasn't happened for a while, but I think I remember one like kind of icy day where we were at the campus, which is a sandy arena, but it just felt bad to me, which I didn't realize for a little while, but I was not confident. I was not feeling safe in the center of the rectangle. So then Zorro started to get tight in ways that he is not normally tight, which makes perfect sense, because he's like, I don't know, my safe spot is you are, you know, there's no place of peace, because or like if it's super duper windy or cold, you know, when I start to go like this, no fault of my horse or me exactly, but it can start to go you know, sideways, even if you start to be uncomfortable for whatever reason. So the question being, is my horse in the middle? And is there anything peaceful there? Topic, Emma, we the human doesn't feel confident in the rectangle. I'm serious. Right, Lisa? What if you really have to use the restroom? If you've had, like, you drank your water that day and you're an hour into your ride and all of a sudden you're just tight. But I mean, I'm just saying that's a real thing. Can you be relaxed? Or you guys saw that reel where the cat jumped onto Charlie. If we had a 45-minute ride where he was never able to feel the center, then the cat would jump on him and he'd be like, oh my God. Versus the center was the center and we were parked, and probably 10 cats could have jumped at him. And he would have been like, just the thought that we are the factor, and yet that's okay. We still have to be real about it. I do sit up there thinking, if I could only ride like Michael, I just wouldn't care. But when the footing's good, when your horse is generally loose over their top line, and you're doing, let's say, the divorce. My cat is stuck on the light. She's excuse me, just for a second.
Stuck on the light? What do you mean?
Yeah, the cord to the light. She was stuck.
But she
anyway,
fur onto the light.
What was that?
But she didn't melt her fur onto the light bulb.
Yeah.
Of course, aren't hot anymore, but
she doesn't have a lot of worries about things in general, so she was kind of strung out like a turkey on a spit there for a minute. Anyway, I don't know what the rest of the comment is on that, I guess, other than it would be nice. Oh, I was just thinking about the divorce. When you're in a situation where you can really turn loose in the divorce, it all goes like so quickly because there is a place to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a self-awareness thing, I suppose. And the good thing is it's good to be self-aware. But how can we do that and not be too critical? Just be like, okay, here's what's happening. And I should congratulate myself for drinking all the water, but now let's be real about the fact that we're going to have to do something about it.
Well,
right.
Or even congratulate yourself for noticing.
Yeah.
Whatever. And then not judging it, just going, all right, okay.
Yeah.
How do I address this? Whether that be putting another coat on, going to the bathroom,
just
choosing
realizing
because the ground is sketchier than you're comfortable with.
100%. Or you're like, I know this horse, when they get super scared, is going to take a streak, or they're going to buck, or they're going to do something, and I'm not prepared to ride those things. Mm-hmm. Then that's real too.
Yeah.
Don't randomly do the divorce if you're like, oh, I'm going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So Lisa says, yes, I've totally experienced my own lack of confidence affecting my horse's confidence, even with Jake. Of course, right? But so the interesting distinction to me is the understanding that the middle has to be the peaceful place. Like it's kind of like a meld between just some general emotional thought, like, oh, well, if I'm not peaceful, it's like, no, we have a technical thing we're trying to arrive at. And if for whatever reason that is not present, we have to realize there's no home plate to get to.
And adding to putting more detail to in the rectangle or in the center being the peaceful spot, and it being a technical element. It's not just, are you between my reins and my legs obediently there? You're not gonna, it has to be there has to be balance there. And some horses are more naturally balanced. And so you can get them there, and with a little bit of exposure and with a little bit of definition of the rectangle and spots where it was a little squishy, a little open, you can help them through there a little quicker. Other horses, like, they're not naturally balanced, or they are disconnected. Like, it's going to be a little bit more to help them, and more critical to help them find balance. Because if they're all out of whack, out of balance, disconnected, and leery, like maybe the last horse was, you've got to get that balance piece worked out. So it's not just be in the rectangle. This is your peaceful spot. As long as you stay here, we're going to be fine. But they're all out of whack. They're not going to feel like they're fine.
Exactly. And that's part of, we get all the way back to the one rein stop. There's so much value in the meditation for the person of like, okay, we hook on mentally and emotionally. Speaking of Christmas, have I told you guys about the choir director thing? But so for Christmas music, I love choir music. So I was in like 3 choirs from junior high to high school. And one of them was the Portland Symphonic Girl Choir, which was a big deal back then. I don't know if it is or not now, but it was cool because we had about 30 girls that were pretty rad. I was honored to be a part of it. But the director was amazing. And now that I think of it, it is one of my earliest memories of being hooked on. Just truly hooked on. And what a cool feeling versus like now we're the director, right? But I got to be the follower then. And she was so subtle and just had the whole group of us like so hooked on, of course, that just a squinting of her eyes or just a little something, and we would change. So that level of being hooked on, I was like, oh yeah, I know what that feels like. I want my horse to feel that way. And it was such a sense of unity and peace and turning loose. But just a neat example of being the individual hooked on versus the director. She was amazing. I need to track her down and just tell her that. So Val says, in winter when I'm always cold and tight, the horse has to learn that feel. Oh, sure. You guys, I found a coat, like a riding, like a down coat. I need to share that link. It's not an expensive one, so I don't know how long it's going to hold up, but like it's like $55 or something. It's super poofy, but it's short, so you can ride in it. Oh, it's been a game changer. I'm going to bring it to your place. Olympia says, thanks for the morning pep talk. Off to be the leader of my string. Have great rides. And poor Paula says, I love how real you are. The real life issues for horse and rider. That's the deal. Yeah, for sure. What else were you going to say about that? So just back to the one rein stop, getting the feeling. That's the thing. So you have the physical components of balance, and the technical components of like the rein is hooked to the foot. The inside rein is going to yield the inside leg across, but it's also going to roll your weight to the outside. So we don't have time to talk about this morning, but for those of you guys that have done that exercise with me, where you can off one rein yield the hindquarters, yield the forequarters, and then essentially leg yield, and even get to where you can half pass, leg yield forward and around. I'm just playing with the idea of half pass. But what's interesting is that flies in the face of getting your horse on the outside rein, which is all in dressage land. So I was thinking about that as I've been watching all of this, and I'm like, yeah. Of course, this is this very old tradition that I super respect. But that does not fit in. And yet you guys have seen the power of that exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's this German riding pony that was successful as a 3 and 4-year-old. Like, if you just send her forward, she's balanced enough, beautiful gaits, and she knows forward is the answer. She can do it on a loose rein. You can pick her up a little bit. She's there, but she is not following the rein. If you try to shorten up the arc by leading her in there, she's like, I'm out here. I'll make my way around there because that rein is drawing me there. So that, from my perspective, is one of the biggest holes that if she's going to not have to be contained as she's getting over this spooky element, and getting confidence to where she can maybe scoot around in the rectangle a little bit, but then be brought back without being set there. And that's interesting, related to what I said earlier. Like, no, we're going to use the whole arena at a certain point, but we're going to use a measure of the arena on a loose rein, build your confidence there, and get a shorter rectangle, a soft feel, a leg yield to where we can move you into that corner, maybe using both reins, but then pushing a float to where you can go through there then on a loose rein, even if you do say we're going to get in. But if you're just saying stay on the outside of your body using that outside rein, and you have this spooky horse, that's the only way you can get them through there, is by boxing it in and not having the feel and technique. And you might have a lot of feel, but not the feel for whatever to go through there and build their confidence going in and around things without just containing. I think that's going to be the answer with her, because none of it's, from my perspective, really major, but she needs to work through it, having the space to do it. So
the divorce concept, right? Like, I mean, it's generally, it's not the same as that, but the concept is the same, right? As the horse starts to get hooked on versus,
yeah.
I want to think more about all of that, because I was thinking, well, this is one thing I do that is, as far as I can tell, not congruent at all with the traditional schools of dressage. I think we got to think more about it. Because you need, it's so handy to be able to use the outside rein to stand the horse on the outside foot. But I just got to thinking, and I'm going to play around with this with Katniss today, which I can do, because remember how I was helping so much with the outside rein, but that had to do with the outside hind leg, So I haven't really done it yet. So I think we'll see how it goes. But I need to do it. I just haven't thought about that exercise for a while.
So we're talking, just to clarify what you mentioned just a moment ago. So you're emphasizing rein over leg, rein primarily, right?
Yeah, I mean,
right.
For sure.
So then hindquarters, forequarters, got it, makes sense, obvious. Come out of that forward, then into a leg yield.
Well, or you could just, if your horse is, oh, sorry, you go ahead.
And then out of that leg yield, you're starting a half pass. And how are you leading half pass without an outside?
Well, see, that's the interesting thing, because you're saying, okay, well, this is emphasizing reins only. But in the end, what it's actually doing is just testing whether or not your horse is truly staying in the rectangle. But you know how it is. It's like, you don't randomly start with that. But at a certain point in your ride, you're like, look at what you can do if the horse is truly in the middle. And so this would follow to the same degree that, let's just say, take out the half pass. Well, you know, in a halter with a loose lead rope, you could obviously yield the hindquarters, yield the forequarters. And then if you could do that either side, then your horse could get really in the middle. And then let's say off the left rein, you could just, if you can roll the jaw to the left, then you can, if you move the rectangle to the right, it's just going to go there. With like, so that's where you can lay the rein at the base of the neck. But the point of that is that the whole horse is going to go sideways, you know, and then of course, once you let them out and around, but then I guess what I'm saying is by the time you get to the leg yield, it's such a drape and the horse is already in a soft feel or in a shorter rectangle because of that. And I will have to really play around with the half pass component a bit more, but I was just thinking about how that should work too. Of course, why wouldn't it? But yeah, if you're trying to picture it, imagine, I'm going to do this where I can think about it. So off the right rein, hindquarters to the left, forequarters to the right, and then forward around united. And then let's say you get to trotting and the horse, you got to feel that the horse is truly in the middle first. And then you really should be able to lay the right rein just at the base of the neck, going around to the right, lay the right rein at the base of the neck. And of course, if the horse is going to not be pushing into your right leg, you know, they're just going to go sideways in a leg yield. And it's the straightest leg yield ever. Really, if you have a nice, big, huge arena, you can basically go straight with exactly that tiny turning loose on the inside of, you know, with the inside of the jaw. It just absolutely, but so I know it's amazing, but I mean, it is not at all the feeling of getting your horse on the outside rein. There's no, I mean, it is that feeling, but you're not using the outside rein at all. Mm-hmm. Which goes to show this is about a feeling, not the technical aspects of it. Because our aids are just for hints, just for, but they're still, I mean, we still have to respect the curriculum. And that is not a part of a typical, I don't think so. It's a cool winter pondering. Because whatever works, you know? Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas, Mike. Yes. Susan or Emily says she's trying that. Yes. The heat packs on the small of your back. Ooh. Heat pack on the small of your back. Well, pretty cool.
Someone told me the other day, you know how your wrist, it's like that transition between your glove and your jacket can get chilled. He was hunting and he had it's like a gaiter for your wrist basically, but you know, it's a thumb hole. Other than that, it's just like a fleece sleeve that goes like mid forearm up to first fingers, and you know, room for your thumb to come out. But it's snug enough, and then he puts a hand warmer against the inside of his wrist.
Oh yeah.
So
it heats the blood.
That goes over the jacket, you know, which, you know, over the jacket enough to cover that airspace, and then that heat pack on the inside of the wrist, and then your glove over that. He said that was the ticket for eliminating that cold spot at the wrist that chills the blood and makes your hands cold. Like, I gotta make some of those. Those would be pretty handy for the cold days.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Well, this puffy jacket that I'm wearing, I got it in the small, but it runs big, you guys. So if you order it, like, it pretty much like, I definitely need the extra small. However, it's like riding around in a sleeping bag. Your horse is like has to deal with the puffiness, you know, but I guess it's the air gap, right? So some of those things I wonder, well, you know, Julie is going to roll her eyes at me, but like stuffing, for instance, the heat pack into my riding, it squashes everything to the point where it doesn't make me feel warmer.
Yeah, there has to be enough airspace. And those things, if you compress them too much, like if there's no air on those heat packs, they don't produce as much heat either. If they're really, like if you put them in the bottom of your, like I used to put them under my toes, and then your foot would just kind of crush them and they wouldn't be warm. And then you'd take them out and you'd shake them out and they'd activate again and they'd be warm. But if you put them on top of your toes in your boot, and provided there's enough room in your boot that they kind of the crystals stay moving, then they're warm. But yeah, I mean, the down is the perfect example of, or like I have this really thick sweater that I wear under. I have like this down alternative that's very thin but pretty warm for a shell. But if I wear a sweater that fills all that space and kind of makes the rest of that snug, it's almost like those outer two layers don't do much for me outside of maybe breaking the wind. And it's like I'm just wearing the sweater, so I might as well not even have that down layer in there. But I can wear a thin sweater that's probably, you know, most of my stuff is wool, thin sweater, and then that, and there's pretty substantial air gap, but the air gap is warmed by, yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Good things to make sure that we're sitting up there in the rectangle, like we could be here all day.
Comfortable.
That's right.
Did Julie ever tell you her phrase? Hot means sweat, sweat means wet, wet means cold. No. So if you start feeling yourself get warm, you have to, you know, either shed a layer or just open your jacket, pop your hat off, cool your body, because if you're feeling warm,
damp,
yeah, then you,
yeah, you sweat, you die. That's what Les Stroud used to always say, right? You sweat, you dry. He would be a cool one to have on the Sunday special. I should track him down. Wouldn't it be so interesting to hear about his experiences, essentially vlogging way back in the day? Remember Survivor Man? Oh, he had a TV show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Les Stroud, the original YouTuber, basically without YouTube. It'd be so interesting to talk to him. So yes, well, let's see. It is time for us to go for sure. Thanks. Oh, I wanted to mention Mike Stewart, who you guys might see in the comments here. Click through to his page because he has a new book out that he wrote, and it sounds very cool. So it's about a coach. I think he maybe did a tribute to a coach. So yeah, Mike Stewart in the comments, go to his page, and I'm sure there's a way to order his book.
Cool.
Yep. Otherwise, we'll say Merry Christmas to everybody. Nice way to be a team player there, Michael Sparling. And what else? So next week will be the day before we launch the 2024 Northwood Farms Horsemanship Challenge, which is the original one. But that's not that important. The important thing is we're gonna start the challenge in the last day of 2023. So on 2024 Eve will be the first day of the 2024 challenge. So it'll be kind of cool to do it on Christmas Eve this year. Remember to tell your friends. It's free and available to everyone.
New Year's Eve.
What did I say?
You say Christmas.
New Year's Eve. Yeah, New Year's Eve. And the thing is, though, you guys, here's the only caveat. So it doesn't cost any money, and everyone is invited. You do need to be riding your horse because it includes 30 rides. You will get into the fall throwdown if you participate in the 12-week challenge, even if you don't finish it. However, you do have to be into the 12-week horsemanship challenge group, the 2024 12-week horsemanship challenge group by midnight on December 30th. Is that right?
31st.
Yeah, on New Year's Eve. So you have to be in by midnight. So that's the only thing. Don't tell your friends like the day after we start, because then they're not going to get in. They're going to be mad at you. Tell them now. And I'll remind you guys on the show next week. So I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas. What's on your Christmas list, Michael Sparling?
I wrote my Christmas list after everyone asked me what was on my Christmas list. And so I'm not going to get that's on my Christmas list because I was like, I don't know. Can't think of anything right now. And subsequent weeks, I thought of everything. So I guess I'll just have to go buy myself another liner or cinch, a couple pair of jeans. What else is on my list?
You could save all those for next year.
Save all those for next year? No, I need more. Next Christmas, you mean? I can't wait another year for those. I'm just going to have to buy them myself. One of those.
Are you wearing Kimes right now?
Huh?
Are you wearing Kimes?
Yeah. They last longer than Levi's, and I don't like to fit at Wranglers.
No, Kimes are definitely. And then Gary has another brand that he's wearing that I'm blanking on. Anyway, Yes, good blue jeans. Key. And you wear long underwear too? Which kind do you wear?
There's a silk long underwear, Land's End. That's pretty.
I should have asked for some of those for Christmas. I should have, because I do not have any silk long underwear. Billy Bailey gave me some. I think I left them at her house. I forgot about that. What's happening? Somebody's calling in, maybe, Michael. So, okay, so if you can hear me, Michael Sparling, then say Merry Christmas, and we'll see you guys next Thursday morning. We can say 6:30 a.m. Pacific, 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8:30 Central. Merry Christmas, everybody. Bye.